oh God, she's not vegan anymore because she's bloated, ugh. I understand why ex-vegans are coming out and saying obviously they're not vegan any longer. Judging and bullying them, shaming them is not helpful. It's not going to bring them back to the lifestyle. And I think that once the vegan seed has been planted, it can't really be uprooted. It's always there. And this is obviously just my opinion, but I feel like most people naturally who had been vegan for more than a year or so would probably come back to veganism or maintain a mostly plant-based diet. And I don't think most ex-vegans are gonna go back to eating a traditional standard American diet. So being mostly plant-based is huge, and it's amazing, and it's changing things. People like Bonnie Rebecca, who have such huge followings, she's still eating mostly plant-based, and she's made a huge difference in the vegan community and inspired so many vegans. So I understand that it's confusing, but it's just not helpful to be hateful to her. And I feel like Bonnie specifically is one of those people who would come back to veganism, you know, in the future, or if she doesn't stay what she is now, 90, 95, whatever % plant-based. I think she would be one of those people who would naturally kind of gravitate back, because once you see what's going on in the slaughterhouses, and once you understand the impact of an animal-based diet on the environment, it's just, there's no going back. That knowledge is always in your head. I know that's like an unpopular opinion, and you know, we want like to be like purists and things like that, but it's just not realistic. So we can shame and be hateful and be judgmental and be rude and say, you know, I'm a better person than you because I'm 100% vegan for life. But for a lot of people, because veganism is such a huge lifestyle overhaul and such a mindset shift, it's hard for some people to stick to it. It's not helpful for vegans to go, well, I would just never do that, and I would just never falter, and you know, it's not that hard to be vegan, and I've never had any struggles, and you know, whatever. It's better for us to be understanding, and it's not ideal, but honestly, veganism is an uphill battle in an un-vegan friendly world. It's getting better. It really is getting so much better, especially from when I first went vegan in 2005, where, like I said, PETA wasn't even putting vegan on their starter kits. There was no vegan fast food, and we just had very limited options, to now. Obviously, it's much more accessible, so it is frustrating, right? Because you think, God, it's so much easier, but it's not necessarily easy for everyone. I think we just really need to face these situations with a little bit more understanding and compassion, because everyone's situation is so different on like the tiniest, just in every little way, that you really can't understand what someone else is going through. I've been mostly vegan for 14 years, which is longer than most people, right? And it doesn't really matter, but I'm just saying that because even though I had that temporary relapse, it doesn't mean that I was, and this is what I've been hearing a lot, it's just like so judgy. It doesn't mean that I was never vegan. It means that I was in a scary situation that I hadn't been in before, and that our culture is so meat-centric and heavy on animal products, and the propaganda is there from the time we're born. And I think it's just, it's hard for, maybe not everyone, it's hard for some of us to overcome that. We're all human, and I think it's just natural. There's a reason that the phrase one step forward and two steps back exists, because it's a real thing, and it applies like across the board to all aspects of life. I mentioned this a little bit on Kate Flower's most recent video, but I really think that for some people, a relapse at some point, especially probably in the beginning, is part of the transition to a lifetime of veganism. It's gonna take time, you know? And it's easy to be like, well, I saw this footage and it's awful and I went vegan overnight, why can't you? Well, because it's not that simple, and everyone is not the same, and we all do things in our own time. And I think it's important that we talk about that and let veg-curious people know that it's okay to do vegan in their own time. Because if it's like an all or nothing overnight or else you're not vegan thing, then they're gonna give up, and that hurts more animals, and it hurts veganism, and it hurts progress. That's not to say that everyone who's vegan is gonna have a relapse at some point or reincorporating animal products again. But for those who do relapse, I think that the majority of them probably remain mostly plant-based. And I think most people will naturally make their way back to veganism. I think if more of us talked about our struggles or missteps on a vegan diet, or more about our actual transition period, or just more of like the tough stuff, the stuff that wasn't easy when we were transitioning to veganism, or in the first few months or first year even, I think that less people would relapse on a vegan diet. When longtime vegans go, what's the problem? I don't understand the problem. Veganism is so easy, idiots. You know, it's just, it turns people off to veganism, and it does the opposite of what we want it to do, right? So it's not helpful, it's critical, it's judgy, and it pushes people away, and it gives the vegan community a bad name. When we say it's so easy, we advertise it as a cure-all, or like the holy grail of diet. Like, you're gonna feel amazing, you're gonna be the healthiest you've ever been in your life. And someone tries it and realizes like, oh, this isn't so easy. It's not as easy as they said it would be, and maybe veganism doesn't work for me, and then they give up because nobody told them, you know, you might have a couple of hiccups along the way. It takes time to learn what you like and what you don't like, and what works for you and your lifestyle and your budget and your family. You know, people don't say that. They just say veganism is easy and you need to do it or else you're a bad person, you know. Or if a new vegan gets bloated, which is valid. I mean, bloating can be like painful, right? I know people keep blowing that off like as an excuse to start eating animal products again, but like, it's a valid thing, and maybe, you know, people can handle it in a vegan way. But maybe instead of going, oh God, she's not vegan anymore because she's bloated, ugh, we should offer solutions, or point to people who can offer evidence-based solutions like Goji Man or Mike the Vegan. Instead of only offering criticism and judgment, we should be offering up our own experiences and struggles and encouragements. And we also need to accept maybe it's not for everyone yet, but incorporating more plant-based and vegan meals, or doing meatless Mondays, or eating a vegan dinner every night, or swapping your cow's milk for almond milk. You know, we need to acknowledge that that is a step in the right direction. It's just more relatable and real and helpful. I'm gonna use breastfeeding as an example here because that's just what I know and it makes sense to me. So when a woman is pregnant for the first time, she's given all kinds of advice about feeding her baby and how breastfeeding is best, and it's so natural and easy and beautiful and magical and all of this, right? This is coming from someone who's breastfed 4 children, including identical twins, until they were almost 3 years old. So I feel like I can speak to this a little bit. So all the mother hears her whole pregnancy is how natural and right and perfect and beautiful breastfeeding is. So then her baby's born, and she realizes the first couple days that she's worried about her milk supply, or it's painful, or the baby's nursing every 20 minutes, or she's not getting any rest, and she doesn't know that newborn baby's nurse around the clock, and that it's nothing that she's doing wrong. So she ends up giving up. She's defeated, she's hurt, she's confused. She didn't want to give up. She didn't want to stop breastfeeding. She didn't give up because she didn't try hard enough. It's because nobody told her it was going to be work. Nobody told her that breastfeeding doesn't always come naturally. She didn't know to ask for help with those specific breastfeeding issues. Instead, she thought, I guess breastfeeding just doesn't work for me. The same thing happens with veganism, and we see it time and time and again. You know, when it doesn't work out, and someone goes looking for help, all they can find is, well, I don't know what your problem is because it worked for me, right? So they give up because there aren't any solutions and there's no compassion. And with breastfeeding and veganism, there's usually a learning curve, and sometimes it can be pretty steep depending on your upbringing, right? If you were raised in a traditional American household, standard American diet, barbecues all the time, hot dogs, hamburgers, mac and cheese, it's gonna be harder for you than for someone who was raised in like a more hippie, vegetarian kind of lifestyle. It's very hard to overcome your upbringing. And that's why it's important when you're on social media and you're an influencer or creator or whatever, it's important to stay true, you know, and show the other side. So if more vegans would come out and say, yeah, you know, I had a tough time in the beginning. I had this issue or that issue, no matter how big or small, and here's how I handled it in a plant-based way. Or I went to this kind of specialist or this kind of doctor and they helped me handle it in this kind of vegan-friendly way. Or even if you have to say, I temporarily added back, you know, eggs or selfish if you're a current day vegan and you say, you know what, yeah, I had a hiccup in the past because I had this, and this issue, and I thought that adding animal products back would help me, but it really didn't make a difference, or it only exacerbated the problem. So I worked with a dietitian to find a plant-based or vegan way to handle it. You know, that would be more helpful in someone else having that issue instead of going, well, throw my hands up, veganism doesn't work for me. They might say, oh, well, I can try that too. Or maybe I should see a vegan dietitian, you know, and it just gets the gears turning. It would bring them back or keep someone in a plant-based vegan lifestyle instead of turning them away with like judgments and negativity. And it's good for everybody. There are vegans out there like me who understand, who have been there. I know that your situation is different from mine, and even though I relapsed, maybe you won't. And whether you do or don't will be because of your own unique situation. So that's it. I'm not being an apologist. I'm not here to tell you what's right and wrong. I just wanted to share my story and say I've been there. And I think that most people who are vegan for the right reasons will come back to veganism once their issues are resolved. And I think in the future, it will be easier for people to resolve their issues in a plant-based, vegan-friendly way, because every day veganism is growing. There are more plant-based authorities, plant-based doctors, plant-based vegan YouTubers. I think that as a society, we're still moving in the right direction. We're all moving towards eating less animal foods in general, and it's all good. It's all positive. And we have to help by being real and being relatable and telling the truth. And that's it. So thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.